Now I'm going to read the book of Animal Behavior by David McField. This is bought from the library. Contents: Introduction to the Study of Animal Behavior, Interpreting Animal Behavior, Historical Outlook, how the book is organized, Ecology. Just have a quick look. The evolution of behavior, the mechanisms of behavior, sensory, animal learning, conditioning and learning, understanding complex behavior, mechanisms of decision making. That's so advanced. Language and mental representation. Preface to the first edition. Student learning aids. So this is a textbook. Acknowledgement. So many acknowledgement. I thought I would read this book, but it seems that I didn't read it. So it is the beginning of reading this book. Unbelievable. I have to read so thick a book immediately. Introduction to the study of animal behavior. The scientific study of animal behavior involves a variety of approaches. Behavior can be explained in terms of evolutionary history, in terms of the benefits that it brings to the human animal, in terms of psychological mechanisms, and in terms of physiological mechanisms. Which approaches This answers interpreting animal behavior. Why do animals? So a number of questions immediately spring to mind. What makes the male birds destroy the eggs, or do they think is answering the first questions? I just want to answer. There are so many questions, too many questions, so I just want to answer. The hawk moth caterpillar. So this is a caterpillar. This is a hawk moth caterpillar. Evolutionary adaptation among birds sitting upon eggs can be seen by the comparing the nest behavior of birds that nest on cliff ledges. I just think that to compare the reason why that my gambler father would like to invest his money for my education. That is like the birds. Why these father birds would nest their eggs? Some birds are able to learn to recognize their own birds by their color patterning. Although biologists use the term adaptation in many different ways, they are usually careful to distinguish between evolutionary and genotypic adaptation and individual or phenotype adaptation. During his voyage to the Beagle, noticed many of the beautiful adaptations. Do you believe Darwin? Historical culture. Although the scientific study of animal behavior has its origins in his book Expression of Emotions of Animals, with mankind, some expressions such as blistering of hair under the influence of extreme terror, or the uncovering of teeth on that of frivolous rage, can hardly be understood except on the behalf of the man once existed in as much lower and animal-like condition. Okay. How this book is organized is divided into three major parts. In the first part, we look at the evolutionary approach to behavior. In the second part, the causal mechanisms of behavior. And in the third part, we examine the complex behavior using both these approaches. So evolutionary is quite mechanical, so I'm not quite interested. The causal mechanisms, so there may be there's a reason. Examine the complex behavior using both approaches. Okay, so I can't ignore any of them. In laboratory, the scientists have considerable control over animals' environment and thus design careful tests of particular hypotheses about behavior. Is particularly important in investigating the sensory capabilities of animals. The evolution of behavior. Yeah, because first I treat you well, then you treat me bad, and then what I would do, the experience, the evolution, genetics and behavior in this group. This is Mendel. Okay, he is very famous for his beans genes and chromosomes. When Darwin's theory of natural selection was published, the question of how characters are inherited and how variations among the offspring are maintained became of acute scientific interest. Genes and chromosomes, natural selection and behavior. Mendel's law. Development of behavior. I think I have learned that already. Development of behavior. Ontogeny. This is the egg-laying behavior of the stream of eggs cakes is expelled from the productive duct in the side of the body. The animal grasps the egg stream in its mouth. Some early ethologists tend to think of behavior as being directly determined by genes. Propose the metaphor of a blueprint analogous to that of the construction of a building. Genetic blueprint represent a plan for the construction of an adult animal, recognizing that brick, mortars, and a workforce are necessary for the construction of a building. Lawrence draws a sharp distinction between the conditions necessary for the translation of a blueprint into a building and the information contained in the blueprint upon which the characteristics of the finished building depend. Critics of this view point out that whereas an architectural blueprint is isometric with the structure it represents, this cannot be the case with a genetic blueprint. While there is a one-to-one correspondence between the measurement marked on an architectural blueprint and those that appear in the finished building, there is no such correspondence in biological ontogeny. The genetic determinism of the early ontologists have given way to the recognition that genetic and environmental influences are inextricably bound up together on ontology. Environmental influence on behavior. Some forms. I think humans are quite environmental determined. Which country are you from? And many characteristics are formed in that environment. This vocalization, I have read it, show a fairly indiscriminate attachment to moving object, sensitive phases of development. Juvenile behavior develops throughout the whole and must be well adapted to its environment through his life history. Thus, behavior development is not simply a matter of constructing adult behavior patterns. A juvenile animal will often show behavior that never occurred during his later time. For example, the alarm behavior of Hergar chicks is quite different from that of the adult. They extend to the which. So when your youth has gone, then it's gone. It's not because that you will accumulate everything. Innate behavior. The question of what it means to say that behavior is innate has long been a subject of controversy. The term innate has come to have different meanings, which you must learn to distinguish. The early ethologists refer to innate behavior as behaviors that is determined by heredity, and that is part of the animal's original makeup and thus independent of experience of the individual. Wrote about characteristics of behavior as being hereditary, individually fixed, and thus open to evolutionary analysis. The idea that genes determine behavior is naive because genes cannot possibly contain detailed instructions for a particular aspect of behavior. The gene can influence the process of development in various ways, but these processes are affected also by environmental factors. As we have seen, genes can never dictate the course of ontogeny without reference to the environmental medium in which the development occurs. For the student of the behavior, it is convenient to use. So your fate is not determined by your gene. So even the twins, they have the same genes. I think they will protect. They have their own choices. The development of the individual from embryo to adult involves a continental